What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Fair Play Show. Now, this right here is going to be my review of Season 2, Episode 1 of Greenleaf. The title of this particular episode is A House Divided. Let's get started. Well, the season actually picked up where it left off, exactly where it left off last season, when the policeman pulled up in front of the Greenleaf's mansion. Mac had done something to finagle his way out of jail because we saw him get out of the car in the last episode. Well, the reason the policemen were at the mansion, of course, we knew generally what he was there for. He came to pick up the bishop, or they came to get the bishop. And the reason they were there is because back in 1983, the bishop had burned down a church that he had at that time. Lady Mae did not know any of this. And the reason why he didn't tell her, because he didn't want her implicated in the crime. And what had happened was Mac had his daddy to actually, Henry McCready, the one that's in the hospital sick right now, he is the one that actually burned the church down at the request of Mac. So Mac was helping Bishop Greenleaf out. So that's what happened at the first beginning of the episode. We find out why the police are there. Okay. They went outside. Gigi is outside looking dumbfounded because she cannot believe that Mac done finagled his way out of prison. And she was like, how in the world did you get out? I can't believe this. You going back. And he was like, I ain't going back nowhere but home. Okay. And he told her he had something called, there's a word for it. He called it deferred adjudication, which has something to do with a plea bargain that a person can make with the courts, in where they have to, in exchange for their freedom, they have to agree to do something in a certain amount of time to maintain their freedom. And in this case, Bishop Mac was supposed to get something on Greenleaf so that he could get out. He basically exchanged Bishop Greenleaf's freedom for his, is what happened. And the reason he did this, he was mad, of course. If y'all remember from last season, Mac had asked Bishop Greenleaf to testify on his behalf at his sentencing hearing. But of course, the bishop said, I ain't doing this, because now that he knows what Mac has done to his daughter, he's like, no, you're sick, you nasty, you need to be in prison. So of course the bishop wouldn't do it. So that's why Mac is mad. He holding a grudge, and he gonna pay him back at any cost. Okay. So let me see what happens after that. So he basically told Gigi this was his desperate attempt. He had to resort to some measure to get out of prison. So since the bishop wouldn't help him, he was going to try to hurt the bishop. And then she also told him, she said, I don't know how you think you're going to stay out. And I don't think it's impossible for you to be free. But he told her he had enough dirt on the folks in that town to burn the whole city of Memphis down and then leave and walk away with nothing on his back but hot wind. And then he turned around and he walked off, baby. So basically, Matt got dirt on everybody in the town, okay? But the thing is, if the daddy, Henry McCready, was the one that actually started this fire for the bishop. And I forgot, I left out an important part. When the church was burned down back in 1983, unfortunately, a man by the name of Daryl James got burned up in the church as well. So he's not only has an arson charge against him, but he also has a murder charge against him, the bishop. Okay, so then it goes to Mavis, the show. Mavis is at home sleep one day, and she gets a call from a vendor on a Sunday, and the vendor trying to sell her some merchandise, but of course she had to remind him that she don't have a club no more. So Mavis is in a drunken stupor. All she's doing is drinking herself to death. She got this young boyfriend, or we ain't gonna call him boyfriend, but somebody she's sleeping with who is also a client to her, and his name is Lonzo. And she gonna call Lonzo into the room like he her child, because you know she's much older, and he looks like he might be in his 30s. And he comes in, and she's trying to get him to get dressed and go down to the church like he promised to play for him, because she's trying to get him a job. Okay. She obviously is taking care of him. All right. Then it shows Gigi is in church, baby. She preaching up a storm, just like her daddy used to do. And she's taking up her tithe and offering. Of course, May is sitting on the sideline just scowling at her. She just don't like her child, and we don't really know why she doesn't like her. But I think at some point we're gonna figure out why. But it's something strange about that. So after the service was over, Gigi was walking down the corridor, and here comes Lady May behind her. And she gets behind her to tell her that the church offerings have gone down 40%. The pledges have gone down 40%. And she's real nasty and sinister. And she says something to her like, she says a gift to be able to forcibly uninspire people, because she's saying she's doing all that preaching, but ain't nobody giving. So she's saying she ain't never seen people so forcibly uninspired, She tells her, like I said, that the offerings are down 40%. She says half the deacon board didn't even pledge. Gigi tells her it's not because of her. You can't blame her for it. It's because of what's going on with the bishop. Because for 3 months now, he's been in the news about this arson and this murder that happened back at this church. It's all over the tabloids. This is all they can talk about. So she figures that's why it's happening. And she promised Lady May, she said, I'll talk to the deacons. And then Lady May and the people on the board too as well. And there's this one particular lady on the board. Her name is Betty Wilcox. And Betty Wilcox is real against the bishop as well. She's against the church in a lot of ways. We're gonna find out later on. And May tells Gigi, she said, you know what, your pride, your terrible pride is gonna destroy us all. Because she's blaming Gigi for the fact that all of this stuff is going on, because Gigi was the one that started it when she exposed Mac for his pedophilia. So because of her, Lady May wanted to keep everything a secret, because it got out. She blames Gigi, of course. All right, so Lady May is in the bathroom the next morning getting dressed, and she said, and Bishop James walks into the room, and he's trying to rub her shoulders, and she tells him she's been having nightmares about Daryl James. She's like, poor Daryl James, that man got killed in that church. And this is when the bishop tells her that Daryl James wasn't supposed to be there. He said that it was an accident. And of course, when she heard him say this, she just locked up and she turned around and she just walked off from him. She just left him there. She's mad with him. And when she walks out, Bishop obviously has the shakes in his hand. Something is wrong with him. And it looks like he's got the same thing that Lucius Lyon had on Empire, or thought he had, which was it ALS? I believe it was. But anyway, he's standing there and you hear him saying it was an accident. He did not mean to kill Daryl James. Okay, so the same morning, Lady May getting ready to walk out, because she was getting dressed for breakfast, and she puts on her happy face. She's frowning the whole time she was coming down the steps, and so by the time she gets ready to enter the dining room with the rest of her family, she has to put on this happy smiling face, and her whole family is sitting at the table. It's a busy morning at the Greenleaf house. The maids are serving breakfast and everything. And she's asking everybody about the rumors and the gossip. Jacob is sitting at the table reading the tabloids, and she was like, what kind of gossip we got going on today? And she's talking about some reporter or something that's intent on bringing the high people low, meaning the Greenleafs. So she just still behaving almost like she can't believe that the Greenleafs' names are blurted across the tabloid. She's like, I don't even know why they talking about us. In other words, it's like everybody lying on the Greenleafs. Ain't none of this stuff true. She refuses to acknowledge that Mac did anything wrong, that the bishop did anything wrong. She just wants to pretend like they the perfect family, knowing that they're not. Okay. So then the preacher comes down, the bishop comes down, and he sits down and he expresses how much he can't wait to preach next Sunday, or in the coming weeks or whatever, because he hadn't been preaching in a little while, because they pretty much sat him down, or he sat himself down after all this stuff started going on. So Gigi rolls her eyes at him, because it's obvious that she's got a problem with the quote-unquote hypocrisy that's going on in the family. Now, she loves her daddy, but she's one of these types that appears to want to represent the truth, and the fact that he's trying to pretend like he's innocent of something and didn't do anything is really getting under her skin. So she rolls her eyes and she excuses herself from breakfast. She says she has to go to work. So after that, like I said, she leaves. And during the same morning, you see Charity outside having breakfast, just as pregnant as she wanted to. She due any day now. And she's only pregnant with one baby, because it turns out that she lost one of the twins in that last incident she had in the last episode. She actually had a miscarriage of one baby. But she's having breakfast with the choir, the man that's over her choir. I can't think of his name. and finds out during this particular conversation that she's having with the guy that she's got over the choir, him and Kyle off of Living Single. He's playing his husband. They obviously are married, and she said that she sung at their wedding. So you find that out. But they're discussing a gospel album that they're getting ready to make, and they're deciding who they're going to have featured on this album and everything. That's the purpose of this meeting. And so that's what that particular conversation was about. They checking on her. They ask her how the baby's doing. She say the baby's fine and everything, but she says it real strange. And of course, we know from the outside looking in that she's having problems between her and her husband too. But then it changes over. She's in the office singing, and there's this new gospel artist that she is working with, and his name is Jabari. And I guess he's going to be, she wants him to produce her album. And come to find out in the conversation, she's already written like 11 and a half songs for them to put on this album. And because of all this pain and heartache she's been going through since finding out that her husband is struggling with homosexuality, so she's talking to Jabbar, and he agrees to help her because she's singing this song for him, and he really likes it. He feels inspired. He's like, yeah, I'll do it. I'll help you. So she's excited about it. She gets up and she hugs him, and they stand there. And so all of a sudden, Kevin, her husband, walks into the room, and he wants to talk to his wife, obviously, but Jabari just stands there like he got a right to be there. You know, most people, when they see somebody's spouse come in the room, they say they're hellos, and then they say their goodbyes too. They're like, okay, it's understood that he wants to talk to his wife, but they stand there for a moment in this awkward silence and stare each other down like, you gonna leave? No, I'm not gonna leave. You gonna leave. But anyway, so finally Kevin asks him, you mind if I talk to my wife? He said, oh yeah, sure. So he leaves. And I promise you, Charity treats Kevin so bad. She dismisses the man. She ignores him. She's just not nice to him ever since she found out that he was struggling with homosexuality. Even though the man told her he has never cheated on her, he told her that he loves her. He obviously wants to do what is right. Okay? I mean, really, he obviously wants to do what's right. I mean, to me, it's kind of ironic and sad that she's dismissing her husband for admitting that he struggles with homosexual thoughts and desires, but yet she's embracing these actual homosexuals. There, to me, that's ironic. I just feel like the husband that's with her, that loves her, that's being honest with her, the fact that she's turning him away is just mean. She's mean-spirited. You know, she is the one character on this show that I really don't like. I could really do without Charity's presence on the show. I just don't like her character. Okay? It's just, to me, it's an oxymoron. And if she ain't careful, she gonna push that man into the arms of somebody else, and more than likely it's gonna be another man. As a matter of fact, I think I saw some previews of just that, but if he does do it, she's gonna have to blame herself partially for that, because you don't treat your husband like that. If you're not gonna be with the man and be married to the man and treat him right, divorce him. This man is trying to get her to go to a meeting with him, some counseling meeting for homosexuals, and she just refuses to go. Okay, all right. So then it changes over to Gigi and her daughter. They're walking out in the corridor of the church, and they run into, or they bypass, Lady May in the hallway. And Sophia, the granddaughter, or Gigi's daughter, asked her grandmother, she says, are you going to the groundbreaking event talking about for the new church that Basie's building, Triumph 2? She wants to know if she's going to the groundbreaking event. And she, Lady May, tells her, I would rather eat glass, and just walks off. Honey, that Lady May is something else. That's a hateful little woman. She try to act nice sometimes, but she's something else. I'm telling you, hateful little something. So anyway, so that day at the gospel event, or at the groundbreaking event, I mean, they having this big shindig. A whole lot of people. It's like a concert outside is what's happening. Basie speaks a little bit. Jacob preaches. We ain't never seen Jacob preach with such fervor and such fire. And then he's the one that actually introduces Basie. And Basie gets up and starts speaking. And Basie tells everybody, he announces, unbeknownst to everybody there, including Jacob, that he is now making Jacob the pastor of Triumph 2, the new church that they are building right across the street from Greenleaf, from the Greenleaf church. Now, it becomes obvious at this point that the only thing he's doing is trying to piss the bishop off. We just don't know why he's being like this, what he's trying to do. But we could tell he's after. We knew from last season there was some static there, but we just didn't know why. But it becomes real obvious that he's really trying to do something to get back at the bishop, and he's using Jacob to do it. Okay, so once he announces this, Clarissa looking strange. She's like, oh wow. Jacob looking strange, obviously shocked. Gigi looking even stranger, like, I can't believe this. Jacob, a preacher? And then the bishop is standing out there looking. He's got this quiet look of disgust on his face, like, you know, he knew that Basie was out to get him, but he don't. Once again, nobody knows why. Okay, so then they introduce Kirk Franklin. I mean, it's this big shindig. All types of gospel artists are there. All right, so the next scene shows Mac walking out to his car, and he discovers a pedophile flyer. You know how you put out flyers to let everybody know that a child abuser or a pedophile done got out of prison and they live in the neighborhood? Because once you do some time like that, generally you go on this sex offender register, and there's flyers out there to let everybody know that he is in the neighborhood. Okay, he's mad about it. He don't like it, even though he's guilty. He mad about it, so he balls up the one that's on his car. And while he's sitting in the car, he happens to see Lady May walking to her car. And so he gets out the car and he approaches her, and he tells her that the charges against the bishop are going to be officially filed the next day. And so he felt like he needed to tell her, because you still my sister and I feel like you need to know. And we still family. And she told him, after what you did to me, we'll never be family again. And then he tells her, until you need me. And she gets in the car, and when he tells her, until you need me, she looks real crazy and strange at him. I mean, like, oh my God, until you need me. See, he just, oh my gosh, she's mad with him. She said, after what you did to me and this family, we ain't gonna never be family again, okay? And he's, he gets smart with him. So obviously he's used to her coming to him for help, just like he helped the bishop burn that church down. Matter of fact, he was the one that offered to burn the church down. So for him to be trying to use this thing against the bishop when he had a part to play in it, the bishop could tell on him as well. I just found that strange that nobody said that or mentioned that in this particular episode. Okay, moving on. So after that, they show Mavis again. Because like I said, she's just wandering around in life, getting drunk is all she's doing, and call herself trying to manage this young dude named Alonzo. And because she don't have a club anymore. Alonzo not only drinks, but he's addicted to like Oxycontin or something, whatever controlled substance, Oxycontin or oxycodone or something like that. I think Oxycontin. And they go to a bar one night, and she wants some liquor. She drunk when they go in there, but she gets to the bar and she orders a drink, and the bartender tells her, Buddy told me I can't serve you no more. So she's like, okay, don't serve me, serve him. So she orders her drink by way of Alonzo. Anyway, at some point her and Alonzo get into a fight during the time that they at the bar. They have a drop down fight, and the bartender, for whatever strange reason, called the bishop. Nobody knows why, but he automatically knew to call the bishop. It seems like the bishop trying to rescue Mavis. He feels like it's his responsibility to help her for some reason. I know they have a past together because we found that out in the last season, but I don't know how deep that past goes, okay? Him and Mavis, obviously they confirmed that they did have sex at least once in the past, because he was taking her home that night and trying to find out what that fight was about between her and Alonzo, but he was offering to walk her to the door, and she says, you remember what happened the last time you walked me to the door? And he was like, nah, I ain't talking about that. He just wanted to make sure she was all right. But she told him she fine, she don't need his help, she been getting along this long without him, and she'll keep going, So it was just very strange. And he was telling her that you almost died the last time you got drunk like this. Does Alonzo know about it? And she was like, Alonzo is not the problem. And he's saying that I'm going to tell him you almost died. And she kept telling him Alonzo is not the problem. That right now she's just struggling with trying to figure out what her place is in this world now, because she doesn't have her club. And she just, trying to figure it out. But she lets him know, everything going to be all right. Alonzo, we're gonna be good. We're gonna get this music thing. We're gonna travel. Everything gonna be all right. So he finally lets her go and whatever. She leaves. And then it shows Gigi at church. She's in the office talking to Miss Denise, the board member. And she's still trying to get these pledges, but she's unsuccessful in receiving pledges from people. She done called everybody, but ain't nobody calling her back, and nobody's sending in any money. So Denise explains that the reason why people are not giving is that part of the reason why people are not giving is because of everything that's going on with these impending charges that he's got. But the other reason, she said, that's a large part of it. See, Gigi's lost. She's like, is that all? What am I missing? It's because of these charges? What else is it? And so Denise tells her the other part is because, according to Betty Wilcox, who is that board member, who's that bitter board member, it's because they got two gay men, a married couple of gay men, running around the church. One of them leading the choir and the other one in the church. And people got a problem with that. The fact that they got these gay people and it looks like they're supporting them in this gay lifestyle or whatever. And not only that, but even though the couple didn't get married at Greenleaf Church, the fact that Charity sung in their wedding. So these people are holding all of that against them. Okay, so that's why they're not giving money. They don't want to put their money anywhere that they feel is not godly, or it's not right. So anyway, Gigi understands at that point, and she's trying to figure out why they didn't just tell that at the board meeting. Okay, but they didn't want to tell her. You know how people do. Folks don't tell you stuff up front. Okay, so Gigi and the bishop are back at the mansion, and they're standing on the balcony of the house and at the doorway, and she asked him for the truth, if he really did this, if he really burned down his own church. And he tries to get her to come outside and talk to him, but she's like, nah, just tell me the truth. So he explains to her what happened, how the church, when they bought the church, him and May got this church, they found out it was nothing but a money pit. And so apparently they were in debt with it. And they couldn't dig themselves out of debt. And so when they were wondering what they needed to do about it and how to get rid of all this debt with this church and everything, Mac offered to take care of it. And he said he basically didn't say no to him when he offered to take care of the situation. And taking care of the situation meant, like I told y'all earlier, that meant going and getting his daddy, Henry McCready, the one that's in the hospital, to burn the church down. And so at the end of the day, he burned the church down for insurance money. Daryl was not supposed to be there that night. Unfortunately, he showed up and he wound up dying in the church fire. Okay, so that's, like I said, where this murder charge comes from. Okay, let's see, I want to make sure I don't leave nothing out. The bishop is saying how he wants to preach, of course, and Gigi's like, how are you going to preach with this on your consciousness? And he told her he preaches grace and not perfection. And he said that he told the Lord that if he gets him out of this situation, if he gets him out of this mess, then next Sunday he's going to preach whatever the Lord puts on his heart to preach. Okay, he said, if you get me out of this one, you know how we do. Lord, if you fix it for me this time, I swear I'm going to do right the next time. Okay, so remember that. He said what he would do if he's able to get those charges dropped. If the Lord clears this up for him, he going to do what's right. Okay, so May goes to see her daddy, Henry McCready, at the hospital. He tells her that she's always sweet to him. When she wakes him up, he's talking sweet to her. My sweet May. Always sweet to me is what you can tell that he done some kind of ain't right about the way he's saying the things to her. Tell my baby, you always sweet to me. You always so good to me. I said, ooh, that sound like a pedophile. That sound like a child molester. And sure enough, while she's talking to him and everything, and he admits, he said, I know I put you through a lot. And that's when I knew that May herself had been molested by her own daddy. And that explains why she turned a deaf ear and a blind eye to what was happening to her own daughter, Faith. Okay? That explains it, which she refuses to admit. But this explains what happens to him. So the next thing you see is her kissing her daddy in the mouth. And it wasn't just no, daddy, how you doing? It was a somewhat of a passionate kiss. It wasn't no tongue or nothing like that, but it was sort of just passionate. It was kind of deep to him. You could tell he was enjoying it. Okay, and then she stopped, but you could tell she was disgusted with it. Okay, so it goes away. They change scenes at this point. So the next day she's sitting The next thing you know, the DA done called the house, or the people have called their house from wherever to tell her that the DAs are dropping the charges on the bishop. So we already know why. And the reason why they dropping the charges is because Henry McCready all of a sudden refuses to testify. Now remember, in the beginning, Henry McCready was the one that told on the bishop. He was the one that was going to actually testify against him and say this man burned his church down and killed this man. But all of a sudden he done had a change of heart, and he done decided that he's not going to testify against the bishop. And the bishop is just so excited. Oh, now I can preach. So his prayers was answered. Regardless of what we think, his prayers were answered. Okay? He used the devil to bless him, because now he can go on and preach with a clear conscience. Okay? Because he didn't mean to do it. The bishop said, he was young. Like he told Gigi, I was young when I did this. I didn't really, think straight back then. And he did. And I like the bishop because he seems like he wants to be a good man. He seems like he's trying. Okay. So anyway, now he's excited. And May is sitting there talking to him. And she's like, what happened? Trying to pretend like she don't know why McCready dropped it. What do you mean? No, why those charges were dropped? Because it turns out that she went to the hospital to seduce her daddy into dropping the charges, or to not testify. And whatever she did to him with her nasty self and with his nasty self, it worked. Okay? So she's excited. She's playing dumb, but she's happy. The bishop is happy, and she's kissing him, and he promises to never lie or hide anything from her ever again. And she's like, okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. So, so the next day, May is sitting at home, and she finds out from her little boyfriend that the bishop done told Alonzo to leave her alone for whatever reason. He done went behind her back and told Alonzo, now you leave May alone. This is what he told her, because he was acting strange with her one day. And he told her that. And of course she mad now. She mad because she done told the bishop to stay out of her business. So the next day at Charity's welcome home baby party, and they having a good time cooing over the little baby, because she done obviously had the baby, which they don't show. Here come Mavis, bust through the door. She busts through there, and she just starts going off. She's mad with the bishop. She said, I told you to stay out of my business. Leave me alone. You ain't got nothing to do with this. And then she starts going off on Lady May, because Lady May is trying to put out, like, you're going to have to get out of here with that, because they don't get along. But she's telling May, she accusing May of knowing about Faith being molested. She accuses her of not only knowing that, but it turns out that Mavis and May's mother used to beat and abuse Mavis. And she used to lock her out and make her sleep out in a shed or something like that. And she said May knew this the whole time, but May never stood up for her. May never tried to help her. Instead, May was wearing beautiful dresses and traveling with the daddy. So I found out, well, let me keep going. She's traveling with the daddy, and it appeared to Mavis that she's having a good time. And she's having a good time while she over here being abused by the mama. And the daddy is obviously ignoring Mavis. Well, May makes the comment, you had your hell and I had mine. Well, in that moment, I realized that Mavis doesn't even know to this day that her sister done been abused and molested by her daddy too. So she doesn't know. And I don't understand why May won't tell her this. Maybe their relationship can be restored if she told her the truth. But Mavis doesn't know this. So that's what I realized in that moment. So eventually she succeeds, May does, in getting Mavis to leave after she done went on this rant and embarrassed everybody in the house. Everybody in the house shook and scared at this point. So she leaves, and Gigi's talking to her mom, and she asks her, do you think she'll be back? And May tells her, yeah, she'll be back, because she's family. Family always come back. And she looked at Gigi in this pause, and I thought about how Gigi left and stayed gone for 20 years, but she came back too. So I'm sure there was some connection between the two. Okay, so but before all of this happened, before that big rant went on, Jacob is in there, and the bishop don't want to talk to Jacob either, because he mad because Jacob done took this job over here in this new church, forgetting the fact that the reason he had to take the job is because the bishop actually fired him last season from being the associate pastor. But anyway, he's mad, and Jacob trying to talk to him. He don't want to talk to him. He said I ain't talking to him until he apologizes. And Jacob winds up telling them that he's getting ready to move out. Him and Clarissa and the kids are going to move to whatever parsonage that's going to be given to them by Basie Skanks, as he's preaching, or while he's going to be preaching at this new church. And May don't want him to move. May don't want him to leave. But the bishop is like, that's good. A man should be providing for his family. Okay, so that's how that goes. That's pretty much ends that conversation. Let's see. But during this time, May looks over at him because the bishop is trying to take up for Mavis. After Mavis did what she did, the bishop is taking up for her. And he said, she got a problem, May. Don't treat her like that. She needs help because she got these substance abuse problems. And May is like, how you gonna help her? He told her that he helped her. He tried to help her. That's the reason why he did what he did. But May obviously did not like that. And he told her to get your mind off yourself sometime because this ain't about you. And that's when May went off and she's like, get my mind off myself. She said, do you know what I had to do or what I went through so that those charges would be dropped? She let him know. She said, it wasn't God that answered your prayers. It was what I did. Well, God used what you did to help him, May. Okay? But that's what she did. She just blurted out how he got out of the situation that he was in. But she didn't say what she did. She just let him know that she went and talked to that old decrepit old rascal, her daddy, and got him to drop, to not testify against the bishop. Okay? All right. She's something else. She's something else. And I got a feeling that perhaps, maybe the granddaddy is Gigi's daddy. Maybe because maybe the bishop ain't really Gigi's daddy, but Henry McCready is. Maybe that's why Mavis don't like Gigi. It's because of that. What y'all think? You think that could be her daddy? I hope not. But there's got to be a reason why she don't like her daughter. Or it could just be because May left and she came back and she started this whole mess, like May say. Hopefully that's the reason and not the other reason. Okay? Okay. Now, Denise and Betty, they show them standing up at church the following Sunday morning when the bishop getting ready to preach. And you see the husbands, the one that directs the choir and his husband, you see them kiss each other on the cheek and embrace each other. And they look all disgusted and, got that look on their face like church folk have, when they see stuff they don't like. And, they, like I said, they real disgusted about it. And the bishop, he preaches up a storm too, honey. Oh, he preaching up something. I mean, he just getting down up there in the pulpit. And while he's preaching, he puts his hands up in the air. His hand has got that shake going on. And Gigi notices that. She notices that her father is sick. And after that, it does not go off. I'm telling a lie. So after that, after you see him shaking, you see him back in his office, okay? He goes back to his office, and as he's sitting there trying to relax and get himself together, in storms Basie Skanks. And he starts talking to him, and he's letting him know, telling him that he is going to bring that church down. He is out to hurt him. He out to destroy him. He said, I'm going to get you. He said, by the time I get through with this church. Well, before he even said that, he letting him know this church is going down. And so the bishop finally asked him, what do you have against me? He says, oh, you don't know? He said, no. He said, you killed my father. And he says, Daryl James was your father? The man that was burned up in the church just so happened to be Basie Skanks' daddy. I was like, oh my God. And so Basie tells him when he gets through with that church, the only thing gonna be going up to heaven from the church is some smoke. Like, so he is out to destroy the bishop. He out to destroy his church, his legacy, everything that the bishop ever did. Basie is out to undo it. Y'all, this has gotten real good. I'm telling you, if you don't watch Greenleaf, you need to watch that too. And like I told you, I implore you to go back and watch Underground and binge watch. You need to binge watch Greenleaf because it is good, good, good. And I can't wait to see what's going to happen next episode. Well, anyway, that's about the gist of it, you guys. Thank you for listening and whatnot. And yeah. Until next Wednesday, when Underground and Greenleaf, the next episode comes on. Y'all take care and be blessed and whatnot. Oh, yeah, by the way, Empire comes back next week. But I highly doubt that I'll do reviews on Empire. I don't know. So much is going on. It's not as good as it used to be. The only way I'll do a review on it is it's so good that I just can't help myself. But anyway, thank you for tuning in. This has been a Fair Play Moment. Check you later. Bye-bye.